Good morning, everybody. This is Jeff with Walk and Talk with Jeff. It is a humid, very hot morning. You can hear the locust. You can hear all the birds chirping this morning for sure. They're all out early because they're probably going to seek shade a little later in the afternoon because they're supposed to get really, really hot. I want to tell you a story today about an escape that we had when I worked at a prison, a high-medium prison, but we had a satellite facility. There was a work camp, and what the work camp is filled with inmates who go out and work on details out in the communities. They clean ditches and pick up trash alongside of the roads that the county can't get, and you know, they just do odds and end jobs and projects in that particular county. And their work camp's really a good thing, and they have got it made. Those inmates have it made. However, every now and then a couple of them get happy feet and they decide that they want to take off. I was a lieutenant, and I was working at the main facility that night as a shift commander, in fact. Got the call that their count didn't check. They were missing 2. So we immediately got the response teams out and called everyone in. You know, everybody at the prison gets called in on an escape, or they used to anyway. And they all came in, and my shift was about over. My shift ended at 11 o'clock. I was working 3 to 11 shift. At 11 o'clock, then my assignment was to go out, and I had to go be with the state investigator most of the night. Well, which was really a good gig because I knew everything going on during the escape. And we went to this satellite facility and talked to the shift commander up there, and he was telling us the last time they saw him, and another couple inmates told what direction they think they saw him go and all that. Well, while I was standing there talking to the shift commander, we got a phone call from the local sheriff's department. Said, hey, a guy just had his truck stolen. He said he thinks he saw 2 guys get into his truck. And we thought, well, here we are. This has got to be this might be them, you know. So we go, me and this investigator and 2 or 3 other carloads of people. We go and we talk to this old farmer, and he's telling us, you know, that he had his keys in his sun visor, and it was stolen. And he said, I got to look at him. He said, I think there was two white guys. Well, that's what we was looking for. We was looking for 2 white guys. So we just assumed at that point that we were looking for that particular model of truck, and you know, that they put a APB out on this truck. Well, we were walking down the road from where the farmer lived, and you went to a dead end, sort of where the farmer was. You went to a dead end, and you turned a straight left to get out to the main roads. Well, as we walked down the road, we noticed that the inmates that stole the truck didn't make that left. They went straight, and they went off a cliff, a ravine, whatever you want to call it. It was about 75 foot tall. Down below it was a bunch of trees, a bunch of underbrush, a bunch of old scrub brush and things, briars, all kinds of things. They ran this truck off the end of that cliff, and it went nose down into this thicket, basically. Well, we couldn't get there because we had to, I mean, we was gonna climb down there, obviously, it was too far. So we had to get in the vehicle and drive about 3 miles around just to get down to that point, to where we could walk another mile to get to where they were at. And it was right on the river. So we went down there and we saw they had went through the windshield when they crashed. Well, evidently, it didn't hurt them too bad. We didn't think it hurt them too bad. We saw little, you know, drops of blood on the dash and stuff, or maybe one of them, you know, busted his nose or head or whatever, but not enough for any serious kind of an injury. So we thought, well, we got 2 running, now we got 2 on foot, and they're probably hurt. So we got the crew down there, and we got a perimeter set up for to see if we can see them, see if we can find them. We turned around to walk back. We walked all the way down the riverfront to get to this scene. When we walked back on the edge of the river, and this was about, I don't know, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. Right where we had walked 15 minutes prior, or 20 minutes prior, was a snake. It was the biggest snake I ever seen in my life. It was probably you know, and I'm not exaggerating here, this thing was 15 feet long out of the river, and it was as big around as my arm. It was a huge, huge snake. The guy I was with, he was a younger officer. He pulled his gun out real quick. I said, no, 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 no. I said, don't shoot the snake. I said, oh my gosh, we'll have paperwork from now till next Christmas. I said, don't shoot it. I said, let's just wait and see what he does. And the state investigator, who had no fear at all, he walks up to this snake with a stick, and he kind of pokes it and says, get out of here. And this big old snake slithered back into the river. So if you ever had a thought of swimming in the river, know that he's there. Anyhow, back to the story. We were looking for these guys probably another 2 or 3 hours all around, you know, looking for them. Didn't find them all that day or that night. But the next day, and I'm running on about 3 or 4 hours of sleep every day. I mean, me and the state investigator, we kind of stayed at the Hardin County work camp and kind of slept in a chair for 2 or 3 hours until, you know, we got a tip or anything, and then we took off again. I was basically his driver. Somebody had a sighting of them, and they were still on the river, but they were several miles up the river. And what we think they done was they got on a log and floated down the river quite a ways, because they couldn't have walked that far, especially with their, you know, with their injuries that we later found out that they had. So we went to that location, and within an hour, we had them captured. Now, we didn't see them. They gave themselves up, and I'll tell you why. These guys was running through the woods for 2 days. They were completely covered in ticks and chiggers. If you know anything about being in a rural area and in the woods and in the forest, they were covered. And when I say covered, the one guy's leg looked almost black from all the ticks that he had on his legs. They gave themselves up easily because they was ready to go back home. So we brought the guys back and took them to our segregation unit there in our prison. And the nurse came in, and of course they spent hours, and I mean 3 or 4 hours, of picking ticks off of these guys. Every size tick you can imagine, every breed of tick there ever was, they were picking these ticks off these guys. Anyway, they gave them like 7 years each. Each one of these guys had 6 months to do in prison. They were done with their sentence in 6 years. Or 6 months, I'm sorry. And instead they got 7 years because they decided they wanted to go home a little early. It's not you're not dealing with the sharpest knives in the drawer a lot of the times. But anyway, they gave their lives up for 7 more years. And not only that, never able to go back to a medium security or medium security or anything to do with the work camp or anything outside details. So anyway, that's my story today. Hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for coming along on my walk today. I gotta ask you to please comment and please subscribe to my page and like it, and I will talk to you later. I'm out.